A very good afternoon to all of our viewers. Thank you for joining us on ITV for Law and You. I'm Uyag Mofwegwe. We're live in Benin City, Nigeria. This week on the program, we want to look at two things: clemency and pardon. Is there a distinction between both of them? What are the core characteristics, or if you like, attributes of these two very key principles in law? And in particular, what does the Nigerian Constitution say about clemency or pardon? Who has the prerogative, as it were, to give or grant clemency or pardon? We've seen a few of such action in the last couple of years in this country, both by former President Goodluck Jonathan and now President Muhammadu Buhari. What exactly are the, as it were, dynamics of both clemency and pardon? Some persons have said they are both the same, essentially, but I think a lawyer would be in a much better position to help us make sense of this sort of conversation. I'm joined by Peter Ejiofor, legal practitioner. It's always a pleasure to have you join us here on the program.
Thank you very much.
Let's begin by establishing what exactly the difference is between clemency and pardon, if there's a difference at all.
In our laws, there's little or no difference. Clemency is an act of mercy, or an act of grace for an offense that is committed. Same with pardon. When you grant pardon, you are forgiven the offense committed by somebody.
Right.
So it's an act of grace that is enforced by a rightful authority to forgive or grant pardon to somebody that has committed an offense for which he was found guilty.
Let's look at the circumstances that can make one eligible for this kind of pardon, really.
There are no clear criteria for the basic criteria is for Nigeria here as far as Section 175 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended, 1999 as amended, and Section 212 of the same Constitution. For the 175 is exercised by the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria upon consultation with the Council of States.
Okay, there must be consultation.
Yes. And for the governor, he is empowered under Section 212 of the Constitution. Now, the first criteria, if you have asked, is that the person must have been charged for an offense.
Okay.
He must have been tried and found guilty. You cannot pardon an offense that is a trial that is ongoing.
Okay.
Because the person has not been tried and found guilty.
Okay.
So if you say you pardon, so there are instances where you see people, you see government do that. But what are you now pardoning? Is it for the sin or for suspicion? So the rightful thing is that the person must have fallen foul of the law. He must have been tried, and then the person must have been convicted. And then you are pardoning, you are now forgiving the sin and restoring the right and privileges of the person. That is what it is. Or in some instances where the person is not, if there is not an outright pardon, you mitigate. When the government says we are, the president or governor say we are mitigating the punishment. If the punishment is say 10 years, so we are reducing it to 5 years.
Or maybe if it had been life earlier.
If it has been life, we are committing it to 10 years imprisonment. Or if it is a situation where the person has been sentenced, and then at the same time he has also forfeited property. Government can say, okay, we release you, but you forfeit your property.
Right.
But if it is pardon as it were, it means that it goes with all the full rights and privileges. But there are circumstances where the government will have to go by way of mitigation.
Yes.
In that case, it cannot be full pardon.
The reason I ask this, just to help us, one, create a background that's clear enough for everybody watching to understand the basics of this discussion. Then second, we've seen situation, for example, because apparently you already cited what the Constitution clearly says about the powers of the governor and, of course, those of the president, as far as pardon or clemency is concerned.
Yes.
But we also have cases, for instance, where you find maybe the Attorney General of the Federation or the Commissioner of Justice in the state says, look, government is interested in such and such case, and then you find the institution or the agency, maybe the law enforcement agency actually prosecuting that case, is asked to drop such a case, and that seals it, that brings closure to that case. We're seeing so much of controversies also trailing such actions. How do we distinguish between both?
Under that circumstance, that is a nolle prosequi.
Okay.
It's an ongoing trial.
That was intercepted.
That was intercepted by the Attorney General, exercising his powers under the Constitution as it were, either the Attorney General of the Federation or state. So that is that. That differentiates it from this particular instance where the person has been tried, found guilty, and then maybe is serving the sentence. After conviction, is serving his term of imprisonment or whatever. And then the government now thinks, okay, let's show mercy to this person. It is not based on moral ground. It's not based on any moral ground or any moral criteria. The government just wants to exercise that power to show mercy, compaction. That is what it means. It is not based on any criteria. Say, okay, the offense is lesser offense. It could be treason, like in the case of Enahoro. It could also be issue of corruption, like that of Alamesia. It could be any offense. But what matters is that the president is exercising his powers as it were based on the Constitution. That's how it is.
Okay, I'm going to talk to you about a few more things, because incidentally, you have already made allusion to the issue of Alamesia now. Before that, you talked about you mentioned the issue of Enahoro, Anthony Enahoro, blessed memory. You talked about him being granted pardon now by the president, Muhammadu Buhari. Of course, he was just one of the over 2,000 persons who were granted pardon, including former governor of defunct Bendel State, Professor Ambrose Ali. These are people Nigerians won't forget in a hurry, for example. But there have also been controversies trailing the conversation following the pardon granted by the president to these gentlemen. Some persons have said, look, these people never committed the offense in the first instance. So on what basis are you pardoning them? What have been your reactions, basically?
For Chief Anthony Roselle Enahoro, he was tried for treasonable felony along with Obafemi Awolowo and many others. And he was found guilty by the court, was convicted accordingly. And he appealed, himself particularly appealed his sentence, and it was reduced. The Court of Appeal reduced the sentence. And then along the line, General Gowon became the head of state of Nigeria, and on the 12th of August, 1966, there was a gazette granting pardon to all these persons. In other words, all their sins are forgiven. By that act of prerogative of mercy exercised by the head of state, they no longer have those stigma. It was on that basis he became Minister of Information and Labor, Commissioner for Information and Labor, under the government of General Gowon. He went on also to serve under different governments. And somewhere along the line too, he had issues with one or two issues. The last was in 1997 when he was tried with people like other persons like Alani Akirinade, Major General Alani Akirinade, but they were not convicted. So maybe the second pardon now is an act of surplusage. I don't know whether it contradicts the earlier one. Probably we could say that the government that found him guilty was a civilian government at that point in time, and he was pardoned by a military government. Now a civilian government is in place now, and the civilian government wants to exercise its power to pardon him for the second time. That's the only thing you can explain for Chief Anthony Enahoro.
Yes.
For Ambrose Ali, Ambrose Ali was an erudite scholar, a very humane leader who thinks of the people first before himself. He never appropriated anything for himself. At the time he was convicted, Ambrose Ali had only 500 naira in his account, both private, both his savings and current account. So on what ground can you find such person guilty? He had no property. No known building you can say Ambrose Ali had in Nigeria. At that point, at that time, he was already a governor. He was in the Constituent Assembly. He served there. He has lectured in Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, and one other university before coming to University of Benin. And so, you know, the salary then was poor. So what does the man have? Even as a governor, you know the nature of our life here, that you live and the relations come here and there and demand for one, and you have to give. And the nature of his person is the type that does not keep anything for himself. He was working for the poor. I benefited from Ambrose Ali's government as a student. I benefited from him. And to his memory today, we remember him for many things that he has done in the history of Bendel State, Edo Delta, the colleges of education, the university, Ambrose Ali University today. To his memory, we remember him for it. The free education that he gave freely, without discrimination, whether you are from the north or from the west, he did it. I had the privilege of getting books, getting pens, getting even the textbooks, apart from exercise books. Then free, no, tuition free, and that was how we were living. I bet we know that along the line there were hiccups because funds were not easily available, especially because he was a UPN government. It was a UPN government, and the government at the center was MPN. And so, one way or the other, they starved them of funds. So, but Ambrose Ali did his best. It was so painful at that point in time when they were being incarcerated, and this innocent man was lumped along with other persons. And so many others were also innocent. People like Busari Adelakun, Busari Adelakun, Ajashin, which other person? Many others, Alese Kweme and others. In fact, when Alese Kweme, after he was released, when Alese Kweme visited, then I was working in the bank. When he visited Benin here, he was soliciting for contract. He was driving himself in a Evolution 504 car. No, nothing.
There's something I wanted to react to. I know obviously you're not here to hold brief for the Nigerian Bar Association. I'm going to make I'm going to bring you back to these thoughts you're pushing right now.
Yes.
But there's something I want you to quickly help address. Again, you're not holding brief for the NBA here. You're speaking as a lawyer. People say in 1984, when the late Professor Ambrose Ali was being tried, the NBA had boycotted the courts, as it were, because they said it was set up by the military and therefore was unconstitutional.
Yes.
Yeah, was that far-reaching enough? Because these, I mean, we look back today now, over 3 decades down the line, some persons say the NBA could have done better at that time. Was there anything better, I mean, the body of lawyers could have done, beyond what they had done?
Under a military regime, could they have done anything better? Knowing the kind of government that was existed then, what would they have even done? People like Gani Fawehinmi, Tai Sholari, and so many others fought the government. They spoke here and there. Some were incarcerated, some were threatened. You know, also people like Delegiwa lost their life speaking the truth while they were working for Concord Newswatch newspapers and so many other institutions. You know how the things operate. They are under military regime. You know how it operates. Even in this civilian regime we have what we call quasi-military government. That is what we are operating for the past almost 20 years now. That's what we've been operating in Nigeria. Look at it from the president, apart from Jonathan and Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, the rest are military persons, retired, and they've been operating like one, as military rulers. They don't obey court orders. They do what they like. And so, what do you say? For Ambusali, let's go back to Ambusali.
Yes, you were talking about Ekweme being in Benin. Yeah.
He was granted pardon by this government. Now, the issue that arose that is flowing from that pardon is whether it was properly done, whether it was rightly done or otherwise. Ambusali was convicted by an illegal government. And he was tried and he was not represented by any lawyer because of the issue that arose along that time. And today, incidentally, the man who was the head of state then is now the president of Nigeria. He wants to right the wrong of what has happened in the past. We have to give credit to the Esama of Benin Kingdom. He was so magnanimous. At the time Ambusali was imprisoned, he became blind, no medication, no access to doctors. At that time, it was Esama that had to pay the money to release the man. If not, he would have died in prison. He would have died in prison. So there are certain things we do. Ambusali does not deserve a pardon. He deserves an apology.
We're going to take a break at this point quickly. The issues continue to expand for a number of reasons, but there are several elements in this conversation that has to do with prerogative of mercy, or if you like, clemency, that we must address before the show completely winds down. Stay with us. I'm just going to talk to you a bit more, Barrister Jofo, regarding the same issue. There are those who have also said, look, you've granted pardon to the likes of late Professor Ambrose Ali, Anthony Nahoro. What's more, just extend the same prerogative of mercy to the likes of former governor of Abia State, Ojizo Kalu. Do that to Reverend Jolly Yame, former governor of Taraba State. Extend it as well to the likes of Joshua Darie, former governor of Plateau State. As a practicing lawyer with a word of experience under your belt, when you hear this kind of argument, what first is your reaction?
First of all, let's address the issue of the clemency or pardon granted to Nahoro and his persons. One side of the argument is that these are persons that are no longer alive.
Right.
Do you grant pardon to somebody that is no longer alive?
But I thought they said that would be posthumous in a sense.
They said it's posthumous. Where in the law, where in the Constitution is it provided for? There is nowhere.
But you have lawyers advising the president,
the only thing you can rightly say now is that it is based on political expediency. It is not based on the provision of the Constitution. There is no way you can find
but even within the context of political expediency, how much of sense does it make overall?
If you see, there are precedents that have been set in Nigeria. Those precedents, we did not argue it. We did not do anything about it, but allowed it to go. And so if it is happening for the second or third or fourth time, who is to blame? It's the Nigerians. We are to blame. We blame ourselves for it. In other climes like India, you have a review, a judicial review of the exercise of presidential pardon.
Okay.
People challenge it, and the court will pronounce on it. In fact, in a case of one Krishna against the governor of Andhra Pradesh in India, it was a locus classicus. They challenged the pardon that was granted by the governor, the exercise of that power. They felt it was arbitrary. They felt that it was illegal. They felt that it was immoral. And they challenged it in court. And they won. And so that was the precedent for review of any act of presidential pardon that is done by the president or a governor of a state in India. That has not happened in Nigeria. Otherwise, if Nigerians want to test the waters, it is to go to the court and ask whether a man that is
granted pardon,
it should be the one that is either alive, or should he include the person that is dead. But you know, I said the precedents have been set in Nigeria. Sometime in 2018, this same government awarded GCFR to FQ Abiola.
But most Nigerians applauded that
we
initiative.
Applauded.
Yes.
At the same time too, Gani Fawemi was also awarded GCON, and we also applauded. And so if this president has been set on based on political expediency, you don't blame it. And in any case, what would you expect a governor of your state to do in this circumstance? That is the step the governor have taken to plead that the man should be pardoned. That is the only thing he can do under the weight of the law. And it is also based on political expediency because there is no provision in our constitution for posthumous pardon.
Let's talk about these three persons I just mentioned, former governors who had been convicted and now serving times across, prisons across this country. Is it possible, in any case, to also extend this sort of pardon to them? Because that's the argument some persons are advancing. They are saying you have over 2,000 persons, some alive, some deceased, who have been granted this pardon. Why don't you do the same to these other Nigerians as well?
As a growing young little boy in Warri, many years ago, I used to see the Nigerian Airways aircraft after the airstrip at Oborikoko.
Right.
When I'm passing, I will see the logo of the elephant. It's a very big ear and flapping on the logo of the, and I was wondering, when I compared the elephant and the one we used to see, and I said, how is this elephant, how come that this elephant can fly? I didn't know that it has more meaning than what I was seeing, that Nigeria is the only country where elephants can fly. So if tomorrow Ojus Okalo, Jolly Nyame, Dariye is granted pardon, who are you to question it? As long as the president has complied with consultation with the Council of State and have also given their go-ahead, nobody can question it. We don't have the court have not been given the assignment. Nobody have gone to court to try to test any act of presidential pardon or by the state government so far. So we don't know how it will go, maybe when the court is asked to pronounce on it, whether it is right or wrong. For now, even if Dariye Ojus Okalo is granted presidential pardon today, you cannot question it as long as they follow the due process of the law, because it is based on political expediency. Precedents have been set. They are not the first political persons that could be. Alamesia was charged for corruption. He was also granted pardon. If these ones are also charged for corruption and granted pardon, except you go to court to see this is morally wrong and you prove it.
You made a very apt reference to a state in India where, of course, there's a review basically of this sort of exercise of power by the president or maybe by the state governor.
Yes.
For Nigeria to evolve that kind of, as it were, legal environment, what must we do as a people?
It's to review our laws and for also to be proactive. Lawyers, including myself, the NBA, those who are concerned, who are making noise outside now, those who are complaining now, who are saying that this is not right, go to court. If you fail at the lower court, go to the higher court. To the last.
Are you saying the people are not doing enough?
We have not. We have not tested it. If we have complained, we can only complain, but in the exercise of the power, I don't think anything the president has done right now is wrong, except for the one that he has granted posthumously, which the Constitution does not provide for. But you can explain it on the basis of political expediency. Precedents have been set. We didn't also go to court.
Yes.
So until we do that, or until the law is reviewed, we cannot say anything. He's exercising his powers.
It's obvious that Nigerians must have to take responsibility for seeing a change along this line. And they have to do beyond just vendor stand arguments and so on and so forth. But we're hoping in the weeks, months, and years ahead, we will give more thoughts and action to these issues, because overall it has to be about Nigerians. I want to thank especially Barrister Peter Ejiofor, who has joined me on the program this week to help make sense of the issue of pardon, or if you like, clemency, especially regarding how the president has exercised that power just a few days ago. That's our program for you this week. I'm Mofwegbe. Enjoy the rest of your day.